much. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Indexer Office Hours. Today is the 29th of November, and this is IOH 85. We took a little bit of a break, and now we're back. So for anyone who's new to this channel, this is the town square where ecosystem participants come together to discuss the most important topics that are relevant for indexers. This is a conversation, and so by that token, we love participation. So at certain parts of this call, we'll have moments where you can share your opinion, either in the chat box in the corner or by unmuting your mic. So when the time is right, please do participate. And with that, I will get into today's episode. So we usually start off with opening remarks, and today is no different. We have a 𝗨𝗀𝗳𝗂𝗹 episode number 92. It's getting very close to that 100 mark. So, Nick, if you're here, congratulations. This was with 𝗨𝗀 𝗨𝗀 who is the marketing lead at 𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗄. And as many of you know, 𝗨𝘀𝗄 is one of the core developer teams at The Graph. And this particular episode, wow, I'm loving the emojis. This is insane. It's so visually stimulating. Wow, 𝗨𝗀𝗳𝗂𝗋 everywhere. That is some real community support right there. I love it, love it. So 𝗨𝗀 is another example of someone who has a non-technical background and has moved into Web3 and is making a profound impact. And so in that interview, she discussed a bit about her career, different chapters of her career. She had a bit of an entrepreneurial run, and then she also worked at Airbnb, and then discussed a bit about how she got into Web3 and why she's super interested in the space, and all of the impact that she's having with her marketing role at 𝗨𝘀𝗄. So if you're interested in any of those subjects, highly recommend checking out the episode. It is linked in the agenda, but for those who want to check it out, I will also link it in the chat. Boom, there you go. Opening remarks are done. Now we have a special segment from Payne, who's going to give us an update.
Hey, so I just have a quick update regarding the some Messari subgraphs. I'm quite not sure yet how many of them are impacted by this, but at least Uniswap and SushiSwap Messari subgraphs on the network. Someone is sending some very, very long running queries to those subgraphs. So if you have just default Postgres, it will blow up. If you have just default query node, it will also blow up. And one way to solve this is by having some building indexes on certain entities, which I'll share in the chat in a bit, and also turning on an environment variable from the query node so that you drop long-running queries over X seconds. Or even better, just price them out with Qlog and Agora. But yeah, that's basically about it. So yeah, keep your eyes on your database if you're allocated to those subgraphs. So again, SushiSwap and Uniswap from Messari, and keep me posted if you're running into any issues with them, because with even other subgraphs on the network, because I feel like anything that has the same pattern. Once again, I need to open up a page. So any subgraph that has this pattern of liquidity pool hourly snapshot from Messari is subject to this. I've seen queries running for tens of minutes on my machine, and they just pile up, and it'll easily just nuke your entire setup. I was seeing at some point close to 600 system load out of 32 core CPU. So it will balloon up and destroy everything that you have running.
Thank you so much for that update, Payne. These things are important to highlight. So I just want to say if anyone else has any sort of similar experiences in their indexing journey, this is the place to voice those experiences, just so you share with other indexers. So what Payne did was just mention this to me at the top of the hour. And I said, yeah, we should probably mention this to the community. So if anyone else, like I said, has these kind of experiences that could be useful to discuss with other people, please do share them. Cool. Let's pause here for some questions, thoughts. I see some people typing in the chat. Maybe a small chat on this before we move on, if there are any thoughts or if anyone else has experienced the same thing. Cool. I see that Payne's responded there in the chat, so we'll move on. Had a bit of an echo. Never mind.
Sorry, it was me copy pasting stuff.
Okay. Got it. Cool. Well, we'll leave that conversation there. If anyone else has any additional comments, we'll obviously please do post in the chat. And if you want to bring this up as a topic again, please do mention so in the chat, and then we'll discuss this towards the end of the episode. Let's get into Repo Watch. So Anna, if you're here, please take it away.
Thank you, Abel, and hello everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
We can indeed.
Thank you. All right. So on Repo Watch, as always, you'll find all of the details of every single client from latest releases. I'll go through some of them, and please feel free to give your experiences over the last few weeks. So with that, let's start with execution layer clients. So on Aragon, we have had 2 new releases. The earliest one is a version 2.29.0, which mainly included fixes and performance improvements. And the most current release is version 2.30.0, which introduced the new Aragon-specific RPC method to validate the consistency of the state cache, has some performance improvements, and introduce another Aragon-specific RPC method to receive specific numbers of log events starting from the most recent. It also made consensus layer light client default for ETH, mainnet, curly, and Sepolia. And what this means is that from now on, using external consensus layer, a layer via Engine API will require passing external CLI flags. On Streaming Fast Get, we've had 2 new releases, each corresponding to Get version 1.10.26 and BSC version 1.1.17. On Get, we've had a new release, version 1.10.26. This release fixes a JSON RPC client that used to hang when invalid batch resorts were being returned by the server. It also contains other improvements. We've had a new release for Streaming Fast ETH, so it's a version 1.2.2, and this has mainly some fixes. So fixes ETH call handler that doesn't flag out of gas errors as deterministic, fixes memory leaks in WASM time. It has a hotfix for nil pointer panic when saving uninitialized cache, plus additional other improvements. For the rest of the execution layer clients, we've had 1 more release for Nethermind. This is version 1.14.6. And an important note, this version has been created mostly for no-sys chain purposes and for increasing pivots for supported chains to speed up syncing procedure. On the consensus layer, before moving on to the consensus layer clients, does anyone have anything to add on all of the above updates and experiences or anything of note? So we have a comment from Daniel saying that switching from Get to Aragon version 2.30, like a dev version, has meant like constant tuning, and Get on Girly is almost impossible to sync now. Do you have any more details on that? On your experience with Get and Girly being impossible to sync?
I wanted to add to what Daniel's saying there. I haven't had that much issue with my girly Aragon node, which is on 2.3, 2.30. But I am having a lot of problems with these latest like V29 and V30 on Ethereum on mainnet. I'm having a lot of problems, and I'm sourcing some of those problems to ZFS latency. But there's also something going on with the software since they've introduced the new integrated consensus client. The agent is doing a lot of the agent is just kicking the crap out of my VMs. Let's just put it that way. And like Daniel says, constant tuning, constant like operational alerts going off in the middle of the night because the node has fallen behind because there was a burst of blocks and it couldn't catch back up. Really interested to know if others are having similar problems. I'm looking at testing with various different underlying file systems first to see if that really is the problem. But I think it's possibly some of this stuff we're seeing around, like the, I don't know if anyone's watching the issues, but there was an issue with the new consensus layer client spamming private networks with NetScan, which is just a massive no-no in any environment. So I'm really concerned about the introduction of this new software. So what I've done, just to round it up, is I've turned off the consensus layer client. I've gone back to Prism for some of my nodes, Lighthouse for others. It's somewhat alleviated the problem, but it has not resolved the problem completely. I still have issues with the node falling behind.
Thank you so much, Jim, for giving us all of that update. So just to add on that, Big Jim is also saying the same, that the Aragon client tries to hit all of the loads of private IP addresses, and there's Big Jim is pointing everyone to the Aragon channel. I'll find the link to that issue on the Aragon repo and add the link as well. And I guess it's a good opportunity to ask if anyone else has any more detail on this, because it seems like a really big issue. So Matthew Darwin is saying, I don't have problems with Aragon nodes falling behind, but he has issues on Polygon. Also using ZFS. Question, Matthew, are you running version 2.30 of Aragon? Okay, so 2.30 with integrating C consensus layer. Okay, I'm gonna give another minute for the chat. Okay, so Matthew says they don't really have that much load from Graph Node, so it might be different from others. And Lex Prime says, I set external CL flag and everything works stably with Lighthouse. So that'd be interesting. and we have a link to how to disable net scan for Aragon issue. All right. In the interest of time, I will continue with the next section, which is the actual consensus layer section. And here we have had a new release for 𝗨𝗂𝗟. That's release 22.11.0. Now, important to know that this is a recommended update containing security updates, and it is a required update for Gnosis chain nodes. The change contains some logic that might change the way your default configuration looks like. So for that, please check the agenda with the link on how to implement the new release. Then we've had a new release for Lighthouse. Important note, this release is low priority for all users except those using Gnosis chain. So if you're using Gnosis chain, this is an important release. Otherwise, ignore. So for Gnosis users, this release includes the Gnosis merge parameters, and I have the link for that with the details of the plan for the Gnosis merge. Now, some of you may already have seen it because this is from more than a week ago. But the main update is that Gnosis users will need to update to this release before November 30th, or they will fail to go through the merge transition and will be left following the wrong chain. Gnosis merge is planned for early December. The link I sent should contain more details. All right, and more important stuff, this release does contain a breaking change for database schema version 13. So the database schema has been upgraded to version 13, and it will be applied automatically when upgrading and should not take more than a few seconds. And there's details on how to downgrade if you need to. There's also another breaking change, which for the signing of sync committee messages by the validator client has been improved in a way that is incompatible with old versions of the Lighthouse beacon node. Although users are not expected to be affected because only versions prior to version 3.0.0 are incompatible. But there are details again in the agenda. Before moving to the last section, which is the graph stack, anyone has any comments on any of the consensus layer clients? In addition to the ones that we've already... and thank you, Pedro, for posting. The target date for Gnosis merge is December 7th. All right, I will take that as a no and continue to the next section, which is graph stack. Here we have had a new release candidate, version 0.29.0. Important about this release is that this is the first release candidate for the upcoming version, and it's only intended for testnet use only. Some of the details on this release: it adds support for filtering for nested interfaces and support for message headers in Cosmos. It has dynamic data sources for Firehose-backed subgraphs. It includes logging improvements. There's new configuration variables, so graph static filters threshold to conditionally enable static filtering based on the number of dynamic data sources. Subgraph pruning with Graphman has been added. There's a new command, which is Graphman drop, to delete the subgraph deployment. And then there's also a new command, which is Graphman chain call cache for clearing the call cache for a given chain. Also, a new flag for Graphman check blocks, which is delete duplicates. Database replicas won't fall behind as much when copying subgraph data. And there's quite a few of determinism fixes as well. And for indexer service, we haven't had any new releases. And that's about it for this week. Over to you, Abel. Actually, let me quickly check. Yes, so again, if that wasn't clear, everyone needs to upgrade Gnosis before November 30th, which is tomorrow.
It is indeed. Thank you so much, Anna, for such a comprehensive update. I know we've been away for a minute, so thank you for catching everyone up. And as we've mentioned, get on that tomorrow, guys. Cool. Next is Juan with Protocol Watch.
Thanks, Abel. So I'm going to try to make it brief, but there's a ton of updates. So going to forum governance, first update is there's a new forum post regarding a potential update to some protocol parameters due to the change in block times after the merge. Maybe some of you have noticed, but epochs are no longer 1 day long. They are a little bit shorter, so the 28 epochs that kind of like make the maximum amount of epochs that you can have an allocation open without any risk, as well as a thawing period, are no longer 28 days, which might throw some guys off sometimes when dealing with allocation recycling. So there's an update for it so that we get back to the same 1 epoch, roughly 1 day time frame that we were having. Then there are a bunch of updates that I kind of like wanted to bundle them together because otherwise it's going to take way too much time to cover all of them. First of all, there's the L2 related updates, which encompass GIP 31, 40, 39, 34, 37, and as well as another request to the council. The thing to update here is that the council has passed multiple snapshot votes, mostly regarding to the Arbitrum deployments, the bridge, and some potential, well, not potential, but the actual way that the bridge and the protocol deployment is going to be rolled out. First as a sort of like staging environment without indexing rewards, and then like make it like full production with the indexing rewards and all of the other stuff. That also includes the improvements for curation, or as we call it, curation 1.x, which mostly just referred to the flattening of the bonding curves on the L2 deployments. But yeah, that's pretty much it for L2. Mostly the update is that the council has passed some of those. There's also updates to the multi-chain thesis, with a lot of GIPs getting also approval from the council. This encompasses also the epoch block oracle, updates to the arbitration charter that are needed for multi-chain to actually be safe for arbitration, so to speak, as well as ratification of the data edge contract and the subgraph API versioning and feature support matrix. Moving on to forum research, we have a new super interesting discussion regarding n-1 to n solution. What this means is basically when you deploy an update to your subgraph as a subgraph developer, usually when you do that through GNS, all of your signal is migrated to the new version. This has the awful side effect of your old deployment, which you might still want to query while the new one is being indexed, will get mostly dropped by indexers because there's no longer any signal, so there's no incentives regarding indexing rewards to actually index it. So one of the issues is that subgraph developers are basically, whenever they upgrade, they are having some sort of downtime until the indexers actually finish syncing the new version. This proposed solution basically, well, it's not a solution, a proposed solution, but more of like a debate. There are a few different ways that this could be potentially implemented. One of the proposals was to actually kind of like stage the upgrade in steps and do all of that on chain, so that indexers can be prepared to index the new version before it actually gets released on production, so to speak. Another potential thing would be to actually use GraphCast as a sort of like flagging mechanism or staging mechanism, which is not on chain, but more kind of like formal in a way, so that indexers can start syncing before ahead of time regarding the upgrade. There's a lot of debate regarding these potential solutions, so if you're really interested in this discussion, I would kindly ask you to go and discuss in the forums. Next up, we have like 1 million PRs for the contracts repository. Most of them encompass the L2 scaling work that has been done, mostly merging most of the open PRs, as well as making sure that some of the latest feedback is properly addressed. There's also another PR that are mostly just potential new solutions to other problems, like the rebate pools having 0 GRT query fee collected entries and some other stuff that is not really important for now. It will be more important in the future. After this, we have the network subgraphs. There's no new releases in any of them, but there have been a few important PRs. For the core network subgraph, one of the PRs is to add the initial bridge support for L2. We're not yet merging this because until we actually have L2 in production, we don't want to have it on the main branch, but it's still there and it's still going to be used with the L2 transition. There's also some testing with the matchstick framework that we're adding to the core network subgraph. And then for billing, we also have support for Arbitrum, which also has to do with L2 scaling. That's pretty much it for Protocol Watch, so I'm going to pass it on to Abel now.
Amazing. Thank you so much again. We've been missing for a minute, so appreciate the comprehensive updates there, Juan. Cool. Well, now I'm going to hand it to Pedro, who's going to take us into some MIPS updates. So, Pedro, if you're online, please do share. I can see that your mic is unmuted. Oh, there we go.
I'm online.
Yes.
Now. Okay, there you go. I have the push to talk. Okay, thanks,
Amazing.
Abel. Yes, I'm online. Cool. Let me try to share some updates indeed. Let's see if I can share. Just give me a second. Yeah, there you go. Push to talk is not really friendly if you want to share stuff, but anyway, let's try. Yes, so thanks, Abel. We do have some updates. You might have seen the update we've shared by email this Saturday. This was related to the leaderboard and also the upcoming phase 2.
Just a heads up, Pedro, we lost you there after you said phase 2. There might be some issues with push to talk, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, I was trying to disable this thing, but I can't. Yeah, let's just keep on going. Okay, so yeah, as I mentioned, this was related to the leaderboard, which is now available. You can check it. You might have, some people have messaged me about it. I will need to update some addresses, but the leaderboard is up and running. We have data related to phase 0. The plan is to update it, taking into account also the QoS monitored on 𝗟𝗟 during phase 1. We'll do so once we're ready for phase 2. We still need to process some data. And yeah, as mentioned, I will be updating the addresses that are missing. As mentioned, also, we are getting ready for multi-chain indexing rewards on the network. Different related GIPs and blocking it were taken to the council, now being approved. Juan also covered this, mentioning the GIPs. And so that means that we're now super close to having Gnosis supported on mainnet, which is amazing. And that's the goal for this week. In parallel, and I believe Anna also mentioned this before, the Gnosis merge is approaching, and MIPS will need to update their stack and adopt the new architecture, meaning running both the execution layer and consensus layer client. The Gnosis team has released the list of clients that are already merge ready. And so I believe they shared this on the 23rd. So yes, you do need to update your clients before tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly what the Bellatrix epoch is exactly, but they're mentioning before tomorrow. So if anyone knows, please do share it in the chat. That would be helpful. And when it comes to the Nethermind client, there's also a new build that MIPS are encouraged to upgrade to. This new particular build adds support for the new trace database. And this one is particularly interesting for graph indexers because some subgraphs, they do rely on the trace filter JSON RPC method. And so because there was no dedicated DB generated at syncing time by this client, these traces were being generated on the fly, which made syncing super slow when compared to open Ethereum, for instance. And so I've worked on this new Notion page. We call it phase 1.5. It's essentially the last step the last set of steps you should go through to get ready for phase 2. And so it's basically what I just mentioned here, running this new upgraded execution client, one of the consensus layer clients, and then ensuring that you do index this new this new archive node with this Nethermind build, so that you are better prepared for mainnet, assuming that people do publish subgraphs relying on these calls, if calls. You'll be able to index all of those much faster and thus compete better in the open market. So that's mostly it from my side. Those are the updates. I will be sharing these Notion page and then by email, and also I'll post it in the Discord MIPS announcement channel with the help from Nick. That's it from my side for now.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Pedro, for those comprehensive updates. Yeah, great to keep tabs on the program. So yeah, appreciate that. Cool. Well, now we are going to move into the Q&A section of this show. Call, I should say. So if anyone has any questions in relation to MIPS, now is the opportunity to ask those questions either in chat, and I see 𝗨𝗀𝗂𝗃, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and Daniel typing, or you can unmute your mic and ask away. So yeah, feel free to do so. Okay, I see a few people asking some questions in relation to Gnosis, and I see Pedro typing and answering them. So that's good. I see a question from Anna in relation to MIPS announcements. Yeah, the email list is a good place to look, of course. Discord also being another place. and then also the MIPS Notion page. I think between those three should be fairly updated in terms of what's going on with the MIPS program. But could you elaborate on what you mean when you say MIPS announcements? They rarely appear.
While they're answering, can you hear me, by the way, Abel?
Yes, we can. Yeah, loud and clear.
Cool. Yeah, I can kind of help here. So, it gets a little messy on communicating to MIPS participants just because some open emails, some don't. Some are active in the Discord and others are not. So we're trying to do our best of sharing and duplicating in all channels. But I would just advise any MIPS participant to choose one or the other. Be active in the MIPS announcement channel here in the Graph Discord, or check your emails frequently and make sure that you don't have any blockers. Those are our two primary communication means with anybody regarding updates.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nick, for the update there. Hopefully that's helpful, Anna. And of course, please do shout if you have another question. This one might be for you, Pedro, coming from Novi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Will it be possible to change mainnet index or info sent in the first MIPS form? I see you're typing Pedro, so I'm assuming you're probably going to answer that one.
No, I can talk. Would it be possible to change mainnet index? Yeah, let me try. Sure. DM me. It's always the best way for these kind of things. I'll do my best to update the databases. Novi.
Daniel's asked a question about getting a chance to play with the cost model. Question is, want to try Autogora? Yeah, I mean, what's preventing you from trying Autogora, Daniel? Curious to hear more there. I mean, it's experimental software for sure, but if there's a blocker, please let us know. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm out of my jurisdiction there. Pedro, you want to speak to that?
I understand Daniel's question now. This is not allowed. Yeah, so we did say that people shouldn't be, that participants shouldn't be setting their cost models not to interfere with how the ISA was set up. But that's a good point. Maybe what we can, I mean, we don't have a plan for it right now because we're super close to activating Gnosis on mainnet. What we can do, however, is to ensure that we're not collecting QoS data this week, because you folks will be upgrading the archive node and migrating your stack to the new, execution client and CSS client. We can remove the parameter changes we've added to ISA during phase 1 and treat it normally, meaning that you can use cost models and do whatever you want, really. Yeah, sure. During this week, we can do so. But let me get back to you maybe with a more concrete plan on that. I'm not sure if Ford wants to add something here, not to put you on the spot.
Hey, no, I agree with that. Let's try to. Can you hear me? Yeah, let's try to share a plan soon on because I agree it would be nice to give you all a chance to mess around with the cost models and Auto Agora. I think we were going to do a small phase in one of the next chains just around Auto Agora to give everyone a chance to play around with that. But this week we'll have a few days where you guys can have open cost model chance to play around. So we'll get back to you on exactly the timing and when that can start.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think it makes sense to do it sooner, indeed. Yeah, yes, Ariane, just to for folks that are watching the recording, when you say that QoS is not collected this week, does that mean we can do a full resync to sync to TraceDB without being penalized? Yes, that's what I wrote in the Notion page that I've just shared here. So yeah, I bet you folks didn't have the time yet to read it, but that's exactly what we wrote there. That's why we will not be collecting QoS data. So you're free to, one, get ready for the merge, and to take the time to upgrade to this new Nethermind build and ensure that you have the new archive node. And I see people are eager to get started with Auto Agora. That's amazing. Big Jim, maybe others can answer your question. My understanding is that you first need to run the execution client, indeed. Yeah, but I can try to get more clarity around it.
Awesome to see people's excitement for Auto Agora. Ford suggested something that could be interesting for you, Daniel, just to bring your attention to that in the chat.
Just to add something to what Ford just mentioned, there won't be test traffic on those subgraphs though. But yeah, you can indeed do that. We just don't know how much volume there might be for you to test it.
Awesome. Well, keep the questions coming, guys. I see the chat is being utilized, so feel free to add more questions there or unmute your mic. We have another 10 minutes or so before we wrap today's call, so just want to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered if they have it.
I have a question, but it's not really that related to MIPS per se, but from everyone that's present here, how many of you are running the stakes with Docker setup? Because I have an idea for the next phases. So currently the stakes with Docker is basically running everything in a monolithic Docker Compose stack. And I was thinking I could just separate things. For example, like have a Docker Compose for monitoring, one for one for the base graph stack and one for like plugins such as 𝗨𝗀𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧, the indexer GUI, and so on and so forth. So right now I've merged all the changes into from like everything that I worked in the past few weeks into the main testnet repo, but I'm thinking of just branching out to make it more modular. How do you guys feel about that? All right, so Matthew says we would like separate Docker Compose configs for that. Yeah, that's basically what I was thinking about as well.
What an interesting poll from 𝗨𝘀𝗀𝗪. There was more question marks there. What are people running outside of 𝗨𝘀𝗀𝗳𝗂, Docker, and the Kubernetes Launchpad? I'm curious. Maybe you guys can type in the chat. I'm loving these polls, 𝗨𝘀𝗀𝗪𝗓. You're doing a great job.
Oh yeah, it looks like we have a majority modular Docker stacks. So yeah, sure. That's basically what I'm gonna run next.
Love that. A bit of user feedback informing the next cycle of development. That's what we love to see.
I'm not sure that's actually possible, Matthew. But have you tried looking into the Kubernetes Launchpad stack that GraphOps have built? I think that's far more suitable for using it on with multiple servers, multiple machines, rather than just Docker.
Matthew, we're working on improving the Launchpad and adding additional docs and testing some new versions of Kubernetes. So once we do that, might be interesting to maybe like speak about where you are and if you want to have a look at it together?
Hey, by the way, I have a question. Do you guys have ever used Graphman to create indexes? Can you share a bunch of example commands that you guys used? Because I'm a little bit stuck in trying to find out the exact way to handle this.
I use Graphman a bit. Did you have any questions about it, Payne?
Yeah, basically, I just wonder how to create a specific index for a subgraph using Graphman, because I know that there is a command to do it, but yeah, I just don't know how exactly everything should work with that.
Yeah, I don't have the. Let's see. I don't have it off the top of my head. I'm gonna look it up real quick right now.
Oh boy. Gimme. I love docs PRs, lol. This is the best thing.
Okay, so when you're using Graphman, you can do Graphman index create in order to create indexes, and then you can specify the schema and some details like the table, and you can get into the fields you actually want to index to. But I'll try to find that documentation page on that so I can share it with you, because
Looks like 𝗨𝗀𝗀𝗃 sent something in the chat.
nice.
And here's the Graphman MD file. All right, this looks useful. That's perfect. That's basically what I need. Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour. I see 𝗨𝗀𝗀𝗃 writing a bit more in the chat, so I'll let him finish. But I just want to do a final call in terms of questions, comments, or anything as it relates to MIPS before we wrap today's conversation, or anything really, seeing as we have everyone here. So, yeah, final call before we wrap up. I'll pause for anyone to write anything in the chat or unmute their mic.
Does the leaderboard has the latest results already, so it won't be changed? Or can we get any clarity about how points were calculated?
So the question was, has the leaderboard been updated, and then can we get clarity on what exactly?
How points were calculated? So because just curious why I got so low points.
Okay. That is something that Martin can speak to. Pedro, can you also speak to that a little bit?
Yes, I can. But yeah, Martin did work on the scoring, so he has the proper answers. Maybe we can get back with more clarity on it. But we've mentioned this in the beginning that phase 0 was mostly around setting up your infrastructure and just making sure that you had all components up and running whenever we were sending the test traffic. So it was mostly that type of data, and then also community engagement, like if folks have been active and helping each other out. That's basically how we scored indexes. But I can say that it's mostly based on uptime, really. Like if your infrastructure was ready during that period of time. I mean, I'll try to get more. Just give you more details on it, but that's pretty much what it is.
Yes, so as Pedro said, we'll try to get you more information on that. What I'm trying to do as we speak is locate the original MIPS kickoff presentation, which has, it's not super detailed, but it has a high-level understanding of what the scoring is, or how the scoring is done. So let me try to find that and send that through. And yeah, as Pedro mentioned, we'll also try and get you additional information. Yeah, found the presentation here. There you go. So that's some level of detail there. And yeah, we'll get back to you with more information.
Great, thanks.
No problem. Cool. Well, we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to take this opportunity, unless somebody's going to stop me with an urgent question, to wrap up today's conversation. I want to thank all of you for coming through to today's Indexer Office Hours. It's been the first one after a short break, so lovely to see all of your faces again. And we look forward to seeing you all again next week, because we're back on our regular schedule. Goodbye, everyone, and see you soon.